Hiya, welcome to another of these Blues Zooms. Got a real Spanish feel today. Not surprising given what's been happening at the club the last few weeks or so, and delighted to be joined by Terry Gibson, familiar face, former Man United, Wimbledon, and La Liga TV, ex of Sky as well. You out in Spain now, Terry, or where are you? You're in England?
In England, yep. Unfortunately, Chris, I do go out to Barcelona every 2 or 3 weeks to work for La Liga TV, but unfortunately, haven't been able to go since March for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
So working from home for them, doing 1 or 2 programs, so it's keeping me occupied, and I watch every single game every week on La Liga TV. So it's strange times.
So you know all about the Spanish players. Now we'll come to Mikel San Jose in a minute, who a lot of the Blues fans are getting quite excited about because he's got a great pedigree, hasn't he? And he was a real stalwart at Bilbao for a long time. Before we do that, though, Aitor Karanka. Blues has been transformed in what it seems just a few short weeks since he came in. Long negotiations when the Chinese owners brought him in. It looked as though it wasn't going to happen, and then it did. Maybe that was the backroom staff and having full control of transfers, that kind of thing. But certainly his style, Terry, has been, you know, from the off really, very tight at the back, not giving anything away, not scoring many goals, but, you know, 0-0 draw at Swansea, beat Brentford first game of the season. Are you surprised the way it's gone, or is this what Karanka is all about?
Yeah, I think that's where he was. His success at Middlesbrough was based on, and what you do get in La Liga. I think there's this perception that every coach and every team in La Liga played like Barcelona, and that hasn't been the case. I've been working in it since 2004, and there's so many different variations of teams in terms of style, and there's a lot of variations in terms of the style of the coaches. I know there are a lot of coaches in Spain that do concentrate specifically on making sure that their teams are hard to beat, don't concede goals, and then build a platform from there to succeed on. So I think Aitor Karanka falls into that category, and it would definitely be looking at making sure his team are hard to beat to start with, don't concede goals, and then in time, hopefully, it will flourish into a more attacking lineup.
Yeah, I mean, he was with Jose at Real Madrid, and not saying they were hard to beat, but I mean, he learned a lot there, and he learned a lot also under Jupp Heynckes at Bilbao. So as a pedigree, it's not bad, is it?
No, I mean, to be working closely with those two, it doesn't get any better than that. And of course, he would have taken on. He'll have his own ideas, of course, but he would have learned so much from those two. Two of the greats. So working with Jose at Real Madrid as well, club that Aitor used to play for, would have been a big thrill for them to overcome possibly the best ever Barcelona team in order to win a league title. So they did that by being hard to beat. I mean, it was Jose's first Clásico was a 5-0 defeat at Barcelona playing the Real Madrid way. That was the last time we saw that with Jose as manager and Aitor as his assistant. So it's, they decided how they were going to do it, and it succeeded.
Talking to Guillaume about all this, and he knows Aitor pretty well recently, and he was saying that in his own podcast that Aitor always stood up to Jose and said, look, he always no nonsense, straight in there, and he told the players exactly what he thought, no messing, no pussyfooting, just and that's the best policy, isn't it?
Yeah, I think any manager wants an assistant that debates. There's no point having an assistant manager who just agrees with everything the manager says. You need alternative ideas, in terms of picking the teams and stuff like that. A good coach, assistant manager, should have input, and then it's up to the manager to decide, how he filters it.
Yeah, so we know he's going to be tight at the back. I mean, when Middlesbrough got promoted a few years ago, it was gave away hardly any goals at all, and from what we've seen the Blues game so far, very tight at the back, and got that defensive shield in front. Would you, from what you know of him, is there a concern that at the other end there is this payoff where they don't score very many? Can there be a happy medium where you can be absolutely brilliant at the back, but can also score a few, or is it one or the other?
It's. I'm afraid it's probably one or the other. I think it's unless you have a big checkbook and you can buy it and spend a lot of money on players that make a difference. Because when teams are set up to be hard to beat, it starts from the front. So the front players will be the first line of defence. You see it quite a lot with, as soon as they're out of possession, forward players are dropping back behind the ball, getting bodies back, making all 10 players back in position. You can't really have a good defensive line, a solid midfield shield, if the forwards are knocking off and not doing their work. So I think in time, it's supporters will get used to it, because you don't therefore have to score loads of goals to win matches.
No. So many great teams have been built, haven't they, by, with all the great Italian sides of the past.
Exactly.
You don't concede, you've got a chance of winning, haven't you?
Exactly. And you find then as well that teams that play that way tend to put a lot more effort and focus onto set pieces, stuff like that.
Yeah.
This is from a player that played for a team that scored 80% of our goals in one season at Wimbledon were from set pieces.
Yeah.
And Dennis Wise got a massive move to Chelsea on the back of being the main player with the assists, in terms of all the assists that season. He had 8 6-foot plus players in the penalty area getting on the end of them. So, that's how we did it. Other teams have done similar things, but some teams really come alive on the attacking set piece.
Yeah, well, certainly, Birmingham.
Once you succeed, then supporters buy into it as well, and it becomes an event when you get a corner and a free kick in a dangerous area.
Yeah, don't concede and win, even with a set piece. People seem to forget that there are any problems. There have been plenty of problems at Birmingham the last few years, but it's a great start, and it's it's a lot of people enthusing about the influx of Spanish. Interesting, Terry, that Pep Clotet, who you'll know as well, the Spanish coach who kind of fell out with the hierarchy, the Chinese hierarchy, and left recently. I mean, but when he left, he said he was told that we need to be playing beautiful football. We also need to be bringing the kids in, and we need to be winning, which is a bit of a tall order, isn't it? Really. And then all of a sudden, you change the manager, also from Spain, and it's completely different. Completely different. Does that surprise you?
No, I think that ultimately owners want winning teams. Teams that win. That comes first and foremost. Supporters want. Birmingham supporters want to be in the next division up. They don't want to be watching games and thinking, we played well today. We got some, we played some nice football. The kids are looking good, but we lost 3-2. So ultimately, it's people do want to win.
Is it possible though? I mean, Pep was some of his football was really great, and he's a very good coach by all accounts, but maybe not the best man manager, and maybe doesn't lift the players that much. But can you suddenly, with more or less the same group of players, can you suddenly switch to being very tight at the back, or was that a real tall order? There's a lot of new players as well, so it's kind of a transition, but it's a big change, isn't it?
Yeah, I think in general it's easier to coach the way that Birmingham are playing now, to change from being that. If you want to start, it's quite easy to organise. You've got then the hard part is convincing the players it's the right thing to do. But in terms of straightforward coaching, it's quite ordinary. It's all about fundamentals, and you have to make sure that the players adhere to it, they buy into it. If they don't, then you're up against it.
That's the key word.
If they want to
buy into it.
Keyword. Yeah, if they want to win and they see success already with the 2 opening games where they haven't conceded goals, that means that they start their belief is reinforced. So then they start, thinking and believing in it, and the more they believe in it. But it's quite straightforward. It can be quite mundane as well, quite boring for the players in terms of the initial approach from the manager. In terms of they would be doing lots of, I would imagine, in 11v11 practices where then the manager stops it and puts players into position and explains what he's looking for. So it's easier, therefore, to change from an open, expansive team to a more defensive team. It's much harder to do it the other way around. Yeah. So if you've had a couple of years where you're this team that's hard to break down and you've been playing sort of methodical football, then a new coach comes in and wants to open it up and be expansive. Then that coach then has to be. Yeah, and you could say that for Birmingham.
Gary Rowett was like that, and then it was well, let's be expansive, and Birmingham shipped a load of goals last season. Terrible. And towards the end, there was just 3 goals average at home under Pep. It just wasn't happening, and all of a sudden we got this sea change with Karanka, who certainly got his methods across. Have you met Karanka? Have you
yes.
Sort of, yeah. What's he like?
Yeah, bumped into him. Yeah, they really seemed a gentleman. I mean, I only met him at Sky on a few occasions when he came in to do some analysis on the games there, probably the Clásicos.
Yeah.
And he was a gentleman. So only a short period of time, of course, but a nice fella.
He seems to be buying into this kind of project, and his reaction so far has been terrific. Mikel San Jose. Now, come on, I'm sure the average football fan, they'd probably go, not sure who he is, but his pedigree, Terry, he's been at Bilbao for over a decade, is very good, right?
Oh, it's fantastic. I mean, it's for me, Athletic Bilbao is a great place to buy a player from. If you can. It's almost impossible to buy them because we know the policy. I'm not sure if people do know the policy that they're only allowed to play, or they not allowed. They only play Basque players.
Yeah.
So if you want to buy a player from Athletic Bilbao, you have to pay the buyer clause because money is of no use to that football club because they can't spend it. They have to produce their own players or pinch one or two from Real Sociedad or Osasuna, Eibar maybe. So
how many Basque clubs are there? So Sociedad is Basque, isn't it?
Yes.
Osasuna is the other one.
Club and Eibar. Eibar is a Basque team as well.
So all the players are swapping around. Is it just Bilbao that do that, or do the other three do the same, or not?
No. The other three primarily are Basque players, but their policy is, you're allowed to. I mean, David Silva's just gone to Real Sociedad. He's from the Canary Islands. Yeah. So, of course, he couldn't play for Athletic Bilbao. So playing for Athletic Bilbao is like playing for the international team for those players. It literally is an international match every week. Yeah. Very proud. It's a fantastic part of Spain. And for them to get the chance to play for Athletic Club, it takes a very good offer for them to leave. Or in the case of Mikel San Jose, 10 years at the club and he's been fantastic for them. He hasn't played as much in the last season. But this tends to happen that the only way the player leaves is, on a free transfer. They could have got money for him. He's not the first player they're allowed to leave on a free.
Nothing, obviously wages, but
but that's the type of club they are. That they didn't hold on to him too long because there are players that have left the club when you think they could have commanded a fee, but they say the club feel that they've given what they've given to the club, the player. They're allowed to leave on a free transfer.
So it sounds like
even if they're under contract.
Yeah, sounds like we got a real terrier on our hands there. Then he's
he's a player that was a centre back originally at Athletic Club, and then was converted to a holding midfield player. So I think Birmingham supporters as well. Probably I wouldn't be too surprised if at the age of 31 that he reverts at some stage to playing at centre back as well. So it gives you an idea that at centre back he was pretty good on the ball. So therefore the opportunity was presented to move into a more offensive position into midfield. He's not a player that bombs forward from midfield and gets lots of goals, but he is a really good defensive shield in front of the back four. He's a threat at set pieces because of his height. He's a real solid player. And you get the same personalities from the majority of players from that part of Spain. And Aitor, I'm sure, will agree.
Yeah.
Because he's a Basque. That he, what you're going to get. They're real hard workers. They're willing to do anything to succeed. And it's a good place to get a player from if you are a club like Birmingham City now.
Yeah, it sounds like it fits into the DNA absolutely perfectly. And he also scored that amazing goal, didn't he, against Barcelona a few years ago, halfway line.
Yeah, that's the type of goal they get. He won't get many from in the penalty area. He goes up for set pieces and stuff. He is a threat. But don't expect Birmingham supporters to see him smashing money in the top corner from 30 yards too often.
Principally, I think he'll be in that defensive shield, and they've got Aitor brought in Adam Clayton from Middlesbrough, who's very good at that as well, and they've got Ivan Sunjic as well, who's an excellent defensive Croatian defensive midfielder. And once you got that shield, such a key position, isn't it? Really, because the Blues' defence has been a bit leaky, and they've got George Friend in from Borough as well. But that you'd think that. Defensively, it's going to be pretty sound now with those guys coming in, right?
Yeah, and a couple of players that Aitor Karanka knows very well. Obviously, he knows Mikel San Jose, George Friend. You said he was a Middlesbrough with him. So players that he knows he can rely on. So San Jose is a really, really good signing for Birmingham City. And a measure of the size of the club and the attraction of playing in English football, and also San Jose coming to play under Aitor Karanka, where I'm pretty sure that San Jose would have got other opportunities presented to him in La Liga, in the top flight still. So
I didn't actually realise that Karanka was a Basque. Didn't realise he was born in that part of the world. I thought he was from Madrid way. So he comes from the Basque region, yeah. Karanka.
Well, I presume he is, because he played for Athletic Bilbao. So if he wasn't a Basque, it'd be a big story.
It's quite weird, isn't it? You know, in this sort of PC time of 2020, that there are those limits. It reminds me a bit of, you know, the old Celtic Rangers Catholic Protestant thing. You know, so do people in the rest of Spain look at Bilbao and go, you know, what's wrong with these? Why don't they just play? You know, pick anybody? It's a bit kind of what's the word? Well, you know, it's political, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, no, they don't. I think the rest of Spain look on the Athletic Club as a source of pride, to be honest, that they've been able to do it. There's only 3 teams in Spain that have never been relegated, and we know the other 2, Real Madrid and Barcelona, and Athletic Club, never been relegated.
Didn't know that.
Using this policy.
Wow.
So it's an incredible football club. And I wasn't joking earlier when I said money is of no use to that club, because, I mean, they're a very rich club. They pay their players really well. But they can't go out and spend money unless it's on a Basque player. So, you know, another summer transfer window is about to close. Athletic Club, not spent a penny. Yeah. But what they do is they keep producing young players that go on and succeed in their first team and stay there for the bulk of their career.
Well, maybe there'll be more to come. Just talk about some of the other Spanish signings at Birmingham. Ivan Sanchez, who's at Elche, nearly got promoted last year, didn't they? I think. Know much about him?
No, I mean, I must be honest, I focus primarily on La Liga, so I don't get to see too much of the second division stuff. I would have done, because Elche got promoted through the playoffs.
Oh, right, okay.
So for him to make that choice...
So that's quite interesting, though, isn't it? That, you know, he could have been in La Liga, but he's come to the second tier in England. Interesting, that, isn't it? Why do you think that
I think the people underestimate that in Spain there's only 2 divisions, 2 full-time professional divisions. And it's getting stronger because the TV revenue is being shared out fairer now. Yeah. Because in the past it was primarily to Real Madrid and Barcelona, but now the other clubs are getting more revenue from TV. So what you're seeing now is, you know, teams still the attraction of coming to the Premier League. If you've only got 2 professional leagues in Spanish football, we see so many players now that suddenly either join a new club in La Liga, or get promoted in the case of Elche, and then you see them, and some of them are pushing 30, and you think, why has it taken so long for this player to play at this level? Because he's clearly good enough. So I think we're seeing greater depth now in the second division in Spain, and then after that, it's regional. The divisions are split up all over the country. Some are professional, most of it is semi-professional. So we sometimes see players in La Liga that have only recently turned professional, and they're 28, 29 years old. Yeah, talking about playing third-tier football. So the attraction of coming to, you know, English football with particularly the top 2 divisions, a league with 4 divisions, maybe 5 of professional players, and the revenue is at the Championship club in the UK will probably be, you know, the wages will probably be better than what Elche will pay him in the top flight. So that is one of the attractions.
Segunda B, which is the 3rd tier, contains a club called Cornellà, which has a tie-in with Birmingham City Football Club. Principally, I mean, the CEO has been getting a few lessons from how to run the football club. He was quite green when he came in, which is pretty interesting in itself. But, you know, there's a little trail of players as well. Oriol Soldevila, who's signed, another Spanish player, joined Birmingham. 19. He was at La Masia, the Barcelona academy recently. 19. What does that say that he's left that academy? Does it mean he's not going to make it? He's a 10, I think. He's a kind of creative attacking midfield player, but he came through Cornellà. What do you think?
Well, it'd be interesting. I mean, he might see that his path to first team football at Barcelona was heavily blocked by loads of good players. So at 19, if you've got some ambition to play first team football, why not try your luck somewhere else? But Cornellà is in Barcelona. There must be so many talented youngsters in that city.
Yeah. Well, Jordi Alba played there, came through the system there at Cornellà, which is just down the road from Barcelona, and then of course he went on to, and he still is at Barca now. But yeah, it's just a little known club, isn't it? I mean, apparently I think they almost got promoted. They're not far off. I mean, Espanola in the second tier now, aren't they? They were relegated from last season. I think Cornella very nearly got promoted. They just missed out, I think, last year. Well, they're getting closer to it anyway. So, I mean, this idea, I believe that Barcelona have a tie-in with Cornella as well. So it's a bit weird, isn't it? You've got two clubs with a tie-in to the same, one of them being Barcelona, the other being Birmingham City. Where do you think the young players would go? Or does it not work like that? Would you think, okay, if you got a choice, would you rather go and play in England because you got more chance of regular games, or go and wait your time in Barcelona where you're not going to get a game?
Yeah, I think it kind of works out. It probably works out from Barcelona's perspective that if there's a player there that isn't going to make it at Barcelona, they can introduce them and help them out, get them another club, and feed them onto Cornellà.
Yeah.
And then if they do become good, then it's handy for Birmingham City to have that connection as well, because you might be getting a player that was released at 19 from Barcelona, goes to Cornellà, finds his way, and then it can move on to to Birmingham City. So I think that's primarily how Barcelona probably use it, so that when they're giving a player crushing news that he's doesn't have a future at that club, but locally as this other club, we can sort you out there with maybe an opportunity. That would suit Barcelona. I think that it kind of works like that all over the place. Even in the UK, I would imagine there's clubs have got contacts. Those smaller clubs are always looking to try and snap up the talent that's released by the bigger clubs, and that's probably what happens with Barcelona.
But it's not. I suppose it's not an unhealthy thing, is it, to have these kind of connections? And Karanka's, being Spanish now, is a very interesting. I mean, he's a great link, isn't it? Really, where would you expect perhaps more Spanish players to start appearing at the Blues over the next couple of seasons in his project?
I'm not so sure about that. I mean, but what I will say is it's a market that he will have covered. And I'm not talking about suddenly Birmingham going and buying players from Valencia and Barcelona, Atletico Madrid and Real Madrid. But we're talking about Elche, even Sanchez is coming from Elche. There'll be other clubs in the second division in particular. There'll be clubs there were clubs relegated last season that have good players that, now you play for Leganes or something, they got relegated. They had some good young players that, if you've got that knowledge and information, I know Aitor Karanka is going to be primarily focused on Birmingham this year.
There's one,
of course, but he will have contacts that will tell him about, as a young player at Leganes or Elche or Rayo Vallecano, those types of clubs
level,
that Birmingham can afford, and Birmingham can afford them.
Interesting. This time last season, there was a young lad called Fran Villalba who came from Valencia when Pep was in charge, and he kind of fitted that style where the expansive football. And he's a very good footballer, Villalba, but kind of faded a bit as the season went on. And towards the end, he just disappeared. He's gone on loan to Almeria, still there. I think it's Almeria. So I mean, would that tell you that he's not really a Karanka type player? He's a bit of
possibly,
he's a kind of Scholesy, not
fancy
Scholes, but you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So you think he might stay at Almeria or wherever he is? I think it's Almeria.
Well, Almeria, they missed out on promotion this year, and that's a big project. They've spent quite a lot of money, so it's I can see the attraction for him, for Villalba to go there. And is that how you say it, Fran?
Villalba, sorry. It's a V is a B, isn't it? Is that right?
I'd never go down that road. I think I would get quite a lot of criticism if we started calling Valencia on English television instead of Valencia.
Yeah.
So I think there has to be a line where we cut off the pronunciations.
Yeah.
So, but Almeria is a big project. Birmingham's a big project. If Karanka sees the right player, is notified about the right player, they can afford him from the right club. And as I said, 2 leagues of professional players and the third tier of semi-pro. There's a lot of untapped talent in Spain that is reasonable, is good value for money. So Karanka will have he'll be fully aware of that.
Okay, so listen, we'll leave it there. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks ever so much. It's been a while since I've seen you, since we both kind of left Sky, and but yeah, some great connections there. What are you up to now? So you do La Liga pretty much all the time, yeah, and flitting back and forward and.
Yep, mainly just La Liga TV and doing me. When I go out for a weekend, we do all 10 games. So I know guys used to moan at Sky when we got a triple header today. We're in the studio for 6 or 7 hours. We did 12 Saturday and 12 Sunday straight off.
Are there any crowds back, by the way, in Spain? Yeah, I know Madrid's a mess in Madrid at the moment, isn't it? But so nothing same as here. Yeah, bit of worry a bit of a worry. Do you think? I mean,
it is. Of course, it is. Yeah, I mean, for all clubs, not just the big, not just the ones you expect would have trouble with not getting financing because they need the crowds in. It's even messing up Real Madrid and Barcelona and Atletico Madrid, of course, 60, 70, 80,000 people not spending their money, buying tickets. Huge impact on it. And it's been a relatively quiet transfer market in Spain this year.
Terry, real pleasure. Thanks ever so much for joining us.
Pleasure,
when this all maybe later in the season, when the Blues are in second place and pushing in for promotion, we'll get you on again with a few more Spanish signings. Thanks ever so much. And
my pleasure, Chris.
Try and enjoy the rest of this season with this fanless thing in La Liga. But I'm sure you've got Messi. Messi's still there, just about, and all the rest of them. So thanks, Terry. If you've enjoyed it, please give us a like and hit subscribe as well. Appreciate that, and keep right on. Cheers, guys.